will be followed by a Q&A. Now, we have two separate presentations that are back to back. Please feel free to use the chat box to jot down questions or any comments that you have. Both of our presenters have their team with them, so they may be answering questions or dropping links in the chat. And then also, additional information about both of these ATE projects can be found on the Innovate Bio website, which we will drop that link on the chat as well. And lastly, we respectfully ask you to complete a survey at the end of this presentation, which will help us in planning for future events. So at this time, it is with great pleasure that I introduced our first Project Talk speakers, Dylan Bulseco, who is the PI of the grant, and he is joined by one of his interns, Andrew. And Andrew, I don't want to butcher your last name. And their ATE project is integrating data science and hands-on experience into the community college biotechnology classroom with applications to antibody engineering. The title of their presentation is Antibody Engineering and NexLAB. Dylan, I'll hand it over to you at this time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Deanne. I wanted to take a minute or two just to give you some background and overview in where NexLAB fits within the context of our project. So the project really is an antibody engineering curriculum development project at Kapiolani Community College in Honolulu. And John Baristecki has been running a monoclonal antibody course there for a couple of, probably almost 2 decades now. And we use that as the platform to modify it with the input of Brian Hahn, who's one of the instructors in the course, to convert it into more content that includes antibody engineering. So that's a lot of computational bioinformatics and some AI. As part of that, we've developed a software platform that includes an electronic lab notebook and content management. And Andriy will tell you more about that platform called NexLAB. And so I'll just turn it over to Andriy and let him take it from here.
Okay, hello everyone. I will share my screen in just a minute. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, let me start the slideshow. So yes, I will be mostly talking about our software NexLAB for next generation experiments and learning for advanced biotech. My name is Andriy. I'm coming from Institute for Future Intelligence. And yes, I'm very excited to talk about what we have been up to in the last year, developing this platform. Let's go over quickly the table of contents. So I will talk about our key features, our value proposition, a framework that we kept in mind when we were building a part of the lab notebook, how to access our platform, and some plans for future development, as well as how you can join us to be updated with our development in the future. And let's go to the next slide. So what is NexLAB? It is a web-based platform with integrated electronic laboratory notebook part with the content management system and a smart AI tutor. Who is it built for? It is built for students, educators, and researchers, mostly in biotech and STEM fields. And it enables course content creation, student engagement, and later on data analysis for improving the learning outcomes. That is generally what it is. If you do have any questions, reminder to put them in the chat, and then I will take note and answer them later. Moving on to our key features. So on the left, you can see electronic lab notebook. This is where you can record and manage projects, lab experiments, following a design build test framework that I will talk about more specifically in the next slide. But yes, that is one of our key features, lab notebook. The second big feature is the material builder, where you can create, format, and share course materials with your students with images, links, structured content. So as an educator, you can input all of the content that you want to be shared with your students, save it, publish it, or like schedule publish it for the future. And that is how your materials for the course will be presented. And you can manage your courses, like you can create multiple courses with multiple instructors. You'll need to share like a unique passcode for students to enroll safely to your course, and you can later on like access some data. Right now, it's de-identified data about your students' learning. We do not collect any private data information about your students associated with them, just the general data to manage your course. What else? So you can monitor progress and engagement of your class in general. And that's the third main feature. And when we were building the lab notebook, Dylan had this framework in mind. It's called Design, Build, Test Frameworks. And in general, the design part is where you define your experiment objectives. Then in the build part, you develop and iterate on these experiments. And in the testing part, you evaluate outcomes and document results. So how it looks in the structure of like a lab notebook, the main part is that you have one main design. It can have multiple builds, and all of these builds can have multiple tests. And this really enables students to practice iterative design thinking, iterative design in like different courses, different experiments. And for the future, we want to improve data integration and data analysis tools to be added to this framework. And let's go to the next slide. These are the other parts. So for material builder, course management, for course content, as I said, it can be delivered with text, images, links. These are the core parts. And for supplemental materials, this material that is not covered in curriculum can be delivered like software tutorials, details, and lab exercises that you can upload to the platform and share with your students. And what we have added recently, and that has been a very useful feature, is that Smart AI Tutor. All of the content that you add or create for your course, it can be used to build like a personalized for that content Smart AI Tutor, or we call it chatbot also. And I will also display it in the next slides and in the demo. But yeah, these are the core parts. And for the future, we want to also embed assessments for the Smart AI Tutor to improve it, like to actually evaluate how students are learning in your course and what you should be improving, like with the course objectives and outcomes. Okay. So this is briefly about our value proposition for educators. You can easily build, update course materials, and monitor student lab work in real time. For students, you can digitally document and track this lab progress and access interactive course materials. And researchers later on will be able to collect the identified data for STEM education research purposes and then analyze this data on student performance and engagement. Okay, and on the right side of the screen, you can see how the Smart AI Tutor actually looks. Like within the platform, you can click on the chatbot icon and it will start a chatbot that has been created specifically for the class material. For example, this was a basic molecular biology like a lesson. We can call it lesson, we can call it like a material that your students will go through, like a big document with different sections, different information, and then students can utilize the Smart AI Tutor as they go through this material. They read it, they prepare for the class, but they can ask more specific questions to the tutor to really make sure they understand the material and clarify anything they may not understand. And it is based on LLMs and RAG retrieval augmented generation. So yes, I think if Dylan wanted to add a couple of words here, you're welcome to. You are muted.
That little figure on the lower left is, hopefully you can see it. I didn't realize how small it is. It compares what a current large language model like ChatGPT or Gemini operates on the left, where you have an input or a query. It goes to the large language model and they give an answer. On the right is what happens when you implement retrieval augmented generation. What that means is that you add a layer that specifically includes content that you want the students to know and that you're providing. And it doesn't rely purely on what's on these large language models, but it uses the large language model to understand the query and then to be able to generate better answers. And we'll talk more about that on February 21st. But I just wanted to give you some idea on what the difference is between a RAG or when a RAG is implemented on top of an LLM. And there's a lot of nuances to that. So that's what we're working on and trying to improve accuracy and efficiency of this step.
Thank you so much, Dylan, for providing more context. And okay, so this slide shows a general outline how you can access NexLAB as a student. You can sign up through our platform. Your educator will give you a course passcode to enroll, and you can start using the lab notebook and course materials for that course once you enroll. For educators, similarly, you'll have to sign up. You do get started as a student, but you can request educator permissions, like a form with the course info, your affiliation, and then we approve that request, and you'll be able to create a course and add materials to it. And I will demo it in a little bit. Let's see. So we do have a tutorial, like if you want to check out a more comprehensive, but also general tutorial on how to get started with NexLAB, you can follow this link. Check. It explains all the steps that you need to take as a student or as an educator to get started. But this is basically how the platform looks like. So once you log in, I am right now an educator. You can see that you can post different messages to your courses. You'll have your account page where you can see all of your courses. Let's go to course materials. This is where you can select these courses. For example, in the public course, this is the course that you see as any user logging into NexLAB first time or later on. It has a quick start guide explaining how to use NexLAB. But let's go back to the microbiology lab course. This course has right now one material, basic molecular biology. I think Dylan created it and inputted some content. And so based on this content, Dylan has requested and created a chatbot. So if your student is going through all of these sections of the material, they can also click on the chatbot icon right here, and they can ask, for example, what are the main takeaways of this material that I should know? Okay, this is a very general question, but the objective of it is to ask more specific questions as a student, and that will really help you and go more in depth. So once I ask this chatbot about the main takeaways, it then summarizes the central dogma of molecular biology, technological advancements, practical applications. Like it takes all of this material that we have inputted before in a PDF format and summarizes this for your students, and for example, even provides additional context that you need to know. Yes. Yes, and Dylan, if you want to add anything, please do add anything here. You're muted again.
One thing that you can do here is you can we have built in the ability to monitor the conversations that the students have with these chatbots. So if you find that they're all asking a question about content that you haven't included, you can modify the chatbot by just adding that content through this retrieval augmented generation process. And then the chatbot will be expanded to include that content. And one of the things that I recently did in part of the testing is there was no information on nanobodies within that. And I started asking about nanobodies and it failed to find anything. And the good thing about doing it this way with a RAG, it won't make up answers, right? If the content isn't there, it'll tell you the content isn't there. And so we've tried to be very conservative and make sure that it's accurate so that the students are only getting content from this chatbot that you are providing and that you want them to know, so that they're not getting inaccurate information. So, and we'll talk more about that on the 21st as well.
Yeah, so do come for that talk as well. Okay, and what else did I want to show here? Well, we are on the homepage, so as an educator, you can also post messages to your students, to your course, that will be like visible anytime they log into the platform. But one last thing that I wanted to show here is the lab notebook and the design, build, test framework. Let's go here. So as an educator or a student, you can create like a lab notebook, which starts with a design. So once you add a design, it gets added to your notebook, and then you can continue editing that design. And it extends with the structure of builds and tests. So one design document can have multiple builds, and then it can have multiple tests. So once I also add this build, it can have multiple tests added to it. And this is basically, again, to like enhance the iterative design and iterative thinking in your students. And it can be applied really to a lot of different courses, a lot of different materials, not only experiments. And we go back, and we do want to enhance it. Okay, I'll talk about the future developments next. Okay, so this relates to our future developments. There are three things that we want to focus on: is refine data structures, enhance development environment, and hence smart AI tutors. So right now, we're planning to update the structure of the way we are using and collecting data within the application to be more useful and effective for education research purposes. And the way we want to enhance the development environment is we want to add more data science tools to, for example, this lab notebook that you just saw, and potentially include some machine learning techniques there as well. And we also want to enhance our smart AI tutor, like include a way of embedding assessments related to how students engage with the content, so that educator can really take it on to the next level and improve their lesson plans, identify what needs to be improved in both the learning process and the way they present the lesson plans. And we do have a Google form that if you do want to sign up and stay updated, we plan to send out some monthly newsletters, and you can opt in or opt out of that when you do sign up for NexLAB via this link on the left. Yes, this is to stay in touch with us, and like we'll provide more info, and you can join our community of testing the app and improving it. And these are our contact information. Our website is nexlab.waveshigh.org. Please take a look if you want, if you're interested, and do let us know if you have any questions. We're always available via this email. And I will skip this slide since Q&A will be, I think, after the next presentation. And I thank you a lot for listening to my presentation, for joining in, and please join us for another talk on February 21st if you're interested. It will be more specifically related to the Smart AI Tutor. And yes, please join our community and be part of the next gen biotech learning experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew and Dylan both. And as Dylan mentioned, and Andrew touched on as well, there will be another presentation on February 21st that will provide you more with the AI tools that both Dylan and Andrew referred to. And that will be on February 21st. The link is in the chat. At this time, please join me in welcoming our second Project Talk speaker, Dr. Karen Leung. She is the PI of the ATE project, Increasing Student Retention and Recruitment through Alumni Programs, Speed Networking, and Industry Engagement. And the title of her presentation is Alumni Success Stories, Podcast and More. And her team is in the audience as well, Julie, Melissa, Cassandra, and they will be dropping links and I'm sure commenting in the chat. Again, please welcome Dr. Karen Leung.
Thanks so much, Dion. And just funny that the actual PI for this grant, Linnea Fletcher, has left for this period of time, but she's the official PI. I am one of the co-PIs. But very excited to present today. Give me 1 second. Let me make sure I'm sharing. Ooh, and that is not the right size. Let me get you guys to Dion. I'm sorry, I came late, so this is my fault. Does that look good now? Okay, I see a nod from Cassandra, so I will accept that. So again, thanks so much for coming to listen about the Alumni and Industry Engagement Project, which is our shorter title for this ATE project. And I did change the title just for fun and to poor Dion. I'm sorry, I changing things, but to really talk. But it is still about podcasts and these also scientist spotlights and around capturing and sharing alumni stories. This project, ATE project, is a collaboration between 3 community colleges: City College of San Francisco, where I have been, Austin Community College, and Johnston Community College. And so for those of you who maybe haven't heard about this project before, I'll give you a little overview. The general idea was that we have a fair amount of, there's the biotech industry, and then there's our students who are in our biotech programs. And there tends to not necessarily be a lot of engagement and overlap. Sometimes there is, but we really wanted to increase that overlap through direct engagement and also collecting and capturing some of these alumni stories, with the idea that then, especially our alumni who are already in industry, are engaging back with our students, and that we would actually grow that pool of alumni, grow that engagement, and therefore also grow recruitment, retention, and placement of our students in our programs in the biotech sector. All good stuff all around. And again, this idea that there would be a feedback loop, that as our students were coming through, they were engaging more with our alumni, they're moving into industry, they are becoming this larger portion of the industry pool who are then coming back and engaging into our programs. And so if you may have listened to one of the presentations myself and Julie have given on speed networking. That's a big portion of this particular grant. But another piece of it is also these alumni success stories. So not just the speed networking is students meeting directly with alumni and other industry participants, but also capturing these alumni stories so they could be shared at any time, not just during a specific event. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. So where we started this, actually originally when we started this, we thought we were going to collect sort of testimonials and stories in a written format. But I got really lucky, and our project got lucky in really getting linked up with Peter Kazarnoff, who runs the Talking Technicians podcast, which is run through MinTech, which is the Micro Nano Center for ATE. And they created this Talking Technicians podcast, which was really about highlighting stories of technicians in micro and nanotechnology that had come through community college programs. So each podcast of the Talking Technicians is Peter interviewing an alum, a technician, alumni from a community college within the United States, who's now working in the field. And Peter actually reached out and was looking for additional alumni. And I luckily managed to get a few alumni put into that list. And there's a few podcasts from City College of San Francisco students now on the Talking Technician podcast. That podcast is in its 5th season already. It has 47 episodes currently, so 47 different alumni stories of community college alumni and technician roles. And if you are interested, there's 3 biotech episodes from season 3, episodes 7 through 9, if you'd like to check those out. And then from that and talking to Peter, we decided we would create our own podcast. So now we have a podcast called Biotech Beat, which highlights, again, alumni stories, but specifically alumni coming from community college biotechnology programs that are now working in some sector or related sector to the biotech field. We started this in June. I should say Peter really helped facilitate us starting this in June. And we currently are on 8 episodes. 1 episode drops the first Monday of every month. Currently, these are from alumni from Austin Community College, Johnston Community College, and City College of San Francisco. We are hoping in potentially future grants or future funding to be able to incorporate stories from alumni from across the nation from community colleges, because it's so nice to hear these students and hear their trajectories and their stories and where they came from and where they're going. I just listened to the latest one that was provided this month, Artemisia, who had an 8-year gap from her biology training to going into the industry, from people who were coming back from sort of taking care of their families and then moving into even teaching in community college, to people who are field application scientists, to people who came right out of high school and went through the program. It's just so nice to have these collections of stories, which hopefully some will resonate. One of the stories, when we get this collection up and going big enough, will resonate with every one of our students at some level, and is really accessible and free and can be shared very broadly. So we're really excited about the podcast, and continue to move that forward. And I know Cassandra probably already dropped the link, but you can find the links on our website, which I'll talk about at the end, but she'll also drop links because you can find it in any podcast app, or should be able to. This is relatively new. I only started in June, but we've started to collect some initial impact data on this to understand what the actual impacts are on students. So we've embedded an assignment into our courses where students are asked to listen to 1 to 3 of these podcasts, and then are given an anonymous survey to let us know the immediate impact. So far, we have less than 40, but like 38. So it's a medium sample size. We plan to collect more data in the year ahead. Overall rating, more than the majority are saying it's excellent, 37% good, 11% fair. And then we've asked many of the same types of questions that we've asked the speed networking. So this may look familiar if you've seen that data before. But over 97% of students either agreeing or strongly agreeing that the podcasts influence their ideas about who could be successful in a biotech career, whether they fit the description of someone who does science, their confidence that they could succeed in a biotech career, their desire to take future biotech courses and pursue a biotech career. A little bit lower for influencing their confidence they could succeed in a biotech career. And I mean, these are still all over 90%, and 92% giving them a better understanding of the variety of jobs and skills and career trajectories in biotech. And I'll just read one quote that's sort of like the main data we have, but one highlight quote. It was wonderful to hear the different backgrounds of people who transitioned into the biotech science arena. Hearing personal stories really brought the programs and job descriptions to life. It was especially inspiring to hear how community college played such a pivotal, life-changing role in their successes. And I think that's a really, right, from most of us for our programs, really trying to showcase how important our programs are in transitioning people into new careers. We hope that this podcast really does that. Really interested in getting other people's feedback too. So if you listen to it and you're like, you should be asking this question, let us know, because we're kind of figuring it out too, as far as what kind of questions Peter should be asking, what kind of information would be most beneficial to students, either in thinking about retention or recruitment, or other aspects. So that's the podcast. It's not even a year old, but we're really excited about it. But we're also really excited about scientist spotlights. And if you haven't heard about this initiative, I'll just give you a brief overview. This was a initiative that was started by Jeff Shinsky at Foothill College in California. And basically, he was looking for ways to bring the stories of different scientists into his biology classroom and just expose students to content, but in a way through the scientists themselves and the experience and life profiles of those scientists. So he created that and actually did some publications on it, some pretty high impact publications showing that having students engage in these stories about not only the science, but the scientists themselves really helped students shift their senses of stereotypes about who scientists are and enhance their own particular science identity. And so this is now this database where you can find these stories about scientists from a whole variety of different scientific fields. And what it comes to is what you see on the right-hand side. The left-hand side are two like brief examples of the scientist spotlight assignment, and then it opens up when you go into their portal, which is completely free. You just need to sign up with an account. You can get the full assignment, and the assignment is basically a short bio of that individual, a link to information about their background, which for us now is becoming the podcast. So it's stories about individual, that scientist themselves, and then information about science that's related to what they're doing. It could be something that scientist is doing themselves, or it could be a TED Talk video or an Amoeba Sisters video or something that's just related to that type of science that individual is engaged with. And then there's some reflection questions. And basically the thing that I was trying to tell you earlier about how this seems to really affect students' sense of science identity is when students just do these short reflective assignments, 200 words, like that's it. They're just, I think they were doing them once a week or every other week. These are out of class assignments that are really easy to embed into someone's course curriculum, because you can also look through this huge database of 200 different scientist stories and find the science that you need to teach in your classroom and align it to a scientist spotlight that's about someone working in that field of science. And then there is actually now, because of us, a biotech category. And I realize I'm fully burying the lead here, which is these stories for us. This scientist spotlight has been around for quite a few years. What's new for us is that it's putting our alumni stories into this database. So our alumni are not just highlighted in our podcast, but in this national database of scientist stories, that then the hope is that eventually we can pull from them and use those as assignments to share how important, right, like how effective community college programs are, obviously, but really highlighting our alumni and students and the work that they are doing now that's important, impactful to the sciences. So encourage you to go look at that. We currently have, I think, 5 or 6 of these. You can find them on our website. We're definitely, as we move into the podcast is kind of like how we're capturing their stories so that we can then build these scientist spotlights. But we're really hoping for many more going forward. And then on top of that, just a little bit of other stuff. We are also just directly looking at engaging our alumni, not just with the capturing of their stories, but through virtual speed networking or in-person speed networking. Those of you who've gone to any of our presentations before are probably familiar with this, but also engaging our alumni back and providing them opportunities for professional development. So again, the way I think about this is that our alumni are our best sales pitch. They're the people who came through our programs. They know our programs. They're successful. They're from the populations that we are looking to recruit from, and the communities around us, because that is where they came from. And so they are sort of, for me, at the center of everything we should be thinking about regarding recruitment and retention, right? And just support and building these types of alumni networks that will support our students when they leave us. because they absolutely still need professional, right, support networks going forward. And so not only thinking of bringing them back in for things like speed networking, but providing them additional opportunities in professional development. I'm helping facilitate a workplace navigation workshop that's later this afternoon, if anyone's interested. But we are also bringing them back as speed networking participants, so not just as the volunteers, but giving them opportunities to come in on the other end and meet other industry professionals. We're also having them engage with resume reviews and mock interviews that we're hosting for our own students as well, and occasionally bringing alumni back so that they can continue to engage in those types of professional development activities. Additionally, we've developed an alumni advisory board to really start discussing what do our alumni need. This is our biotech bridge builders. We just talked to them last week. 2 weeks ago, maybe. I can't remember. They're fantastic. I've been to a few advisory board meetings. Cassandra's been to quite a few. The alumni are amazing to talk to. They are the most productive, sort of really thoughtful, engaged partners. If you don't already have alumni on your advisory board, please bring them in. Um, and thinking, and we're just really engaged with them and trying to think about what it is that they need and want and what they think would be of service to that community. And then additionally, Cassandra is really taking the lead on building a national alumni LinkedIn group. Many of you may have LinkedIn groups for your students, for your alumni, but trying to think about potentially a national one. This was actually something we talked to our alumni advisory board about, and they were pretty interested in sort of like what would be at a local one versus a national one. How would we maintain that? So we're figuring out that space right now. So yeah, those are all the other things that we're engaged with. And with that, most of this stuff or anything that you can always email me, most of the stuff is on our website, this bit.ly.ate alumni website. There you can find links to the Biotech Beat. You can find the links to the scientist spotlights. And if have otherwise not gone to any of the presentations on speed networking, you can find our guidelines for our speed networking as well. And I will leave it at that so that there's hopefully lots of time to ask questions. I'm really excited about all the AI development, Dylan and Andriy, in the biotech programs as well. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Karen. At this time, we have about 24 minutes for a Q&A session, and your questions can be for any of our speakers today, Dylan, Andrew, or Karen. And what we'll do first is we can start with